gotta start somewhere. Even if it's a thing that weighs and is very uncomfortable, and you have to be fed ice cream at the end of the day because it hurts so bad to wear it, but you just gotta make that start somewhere. Hi, my name is Benton, also known as Benton188 on the 405th forums, 405th.com, build your character. And this year marks my 10 year being on the forum, so I figured, hey, I want to go back and look at all the stupid stuff I've built in the past 10 years and talk about them more in detail. So let's get into it. In the beginning. So the way I got introduced into the forums, or just armor building in general, kind of happened back in early 2013, kind of like late 2012. And at that time, I was still playing Skyrim, actually, because I mean the game had been out for about a year now. So I was like hyper fixated on getting like one of the helmets. So I went on Etsy and I found like somebody made this beautifully crafted Daedric armor helmet, and I was like, oh, that's amazing, I gotta have that. So I bought it, and then I'm like, well, Etsy's pretty cool, so what else can we find on here? And that's when I stumbled across a little known name now, Jim McRae, also known as Icon Props, or everybody out there that buys a visor from him, just about everybody. And yeah, he had a couple cast helmets for sale, and I picked up Halo 4 Scout, and I'm pretty sure I had him do the paint job on it and install the visor and everything, because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no clue anything about costuming. And so I got it, and then a couple months later, I ended up going to a local convention here, just a small one, like in the college, and this guy had the same Daedric helmet, but it was made out of paper. And I'm like, well, what's all this about? And he's like, oh, this is Pepicure. This is how like people make these helmets. This is how people go about, and then they fiberglass it and everything. And right then and there, I'm like, it's that easy. Like, I can go home and start doing this. Like this sounds like something right up my alley. Like I've always been a tinkerer and a builder and stuff like that, and I wanted a full suit of armor, and I'm like, well, here's the jumping point, you know, let's get to it. And so yeah, from there I found the forums and I got right to work. The first suit. So as 2013 rolled on, I got to work on my first suit. It was all pepped, save for the helmet, because like I said, I had Jim's, so I ended up using that one. So the suit was fully pepped, and yeah, being brand new, not knowing what I'm doing, things were a little misscaled. Okay, a lot of misscaled, all right? Well, the suit has a nickname of Moon Boots, and for a good reason, because if you look down at the boots, the big moon boots, like the 1980s, the big stompers, cob piece is way out of size, the chest piece is way out of size. I think pretty much the arms look good on that entire suit. But yeah, it was a stepping stone. I started the suit in about March or April, and then I ended up going to RTX that year and actually met some of the 4/5 members. I'm trying to remember. Dracus? Ooh, it's the name slipping. It's right there. Dracus, Southwest member. And yeah, there was a booth and set up, and so I got to talking with her, and she shared a whole bunch of ideas, and that lit a fire underneath my butt. I went home and I finished that suit by October. And yeah, I debuted it. It was at a party here at my house. Nothing too big, just a whole bunch of friends and stuff that came over, and we're having like a surprise birthday party, and that's actually where the Broken Benton little meme comes from. Is I was so worn out by that fiberglass suit that I just collapsed in a chair and somebody fed me ice cream, just to kind of soothe and help me. But yeah, it was a start, and I'm still proud of that suit. You gotta start somewhere, even if it's a thing that weighs and is very uncomfortable, and you have to be fed ice cream at the end of the day because it hurts so bad to wear it. But you just got to make that start somewhere. The hammer. So my very first prop that wasn't taking something that was already pre-made, like a Nerf gun, and modifying it, or I actually had a little Lego pistol that I built years ago, and I was using that kind of as a prop, but I wanted something proper, and I wanted something big. So the first thing I thought of was making the hammer. And the first iteration of the hammer, I believe, was pepped, and I think I tried to fill it with spray foam insulation, which made it kind of like balloon out, which is like, it's got like that very balloon appearance, and it's got next to no details because I just wanted like the flatness of it, just like the general outline, and put it on a stick. Called it done at that. But I always came back to it. I always try to improve on it. The hammer's gone through a total of 4 iterations. So it started with a pep one, and then a very generic foam one, and then a more detailed foam one, and then the most detailed, the 1-to-1, which is the current one I have now, to scale and everything. And yeah, the hammer's been around. I think the first hammer was in 2014, so we're coming up on 10 years of me having like a hammer, of just, you know, various shapes and throughout the years, and rebuilding it and everything. People love it. There's some photos out there of people riding it, and it's been in the Dragon Con parade, and it's been a blast to walk around. It's heavy. This one's the heaviest iteration so far. All the other ones are pretty light, but you know, it's always a fun time. People always get a kick out of the hammer. The turret. So after building the first hammer, naturally, time to build something bigger. So I decided that when I was rebuilding my suit, which would have been the 3rd remake, which is the conversion to foam, at the first 2 iterations were pepped, and then the 3rd iteration of my Halo 3 suit was mostly foam. Actually, I think it was all foam except for still the helmet. And then on top of that, I wanted a new weapon to go with it because we're heading over to PAX East 2014. Or, no, PAX East 2015. And so I was like, all right, well, the Halo 3 turret, why not? Why not make something detachable, something big that I could wield around, and why not go all out and make it spin? So I think I used just a PVC pipe, and then some more pipes on the end, and like a toilet flange. Carved it down so that way it could just spin freely without being glued in, and then rigged it so the top handle would hold the latch that went through, and then a drill would connect with a long piece going throughout the tube to grab onto it, and just using like cheap Harbor Freight drills. But I got the job done. The turret did spin pretty good. You had to kind of maneuver the handle a little bit, and then all the other little Ghibli bits and stuff were made out of foam around it. Once again, big prop, so it's heavy, and I mean, it was still a big kick. I had the attachment on the bottom so you could just plant onto a stand, like a normal camera tripod, and that way you can just take pictures with it as like that too. And yeah, it was pretty fun. It was a good little challenge. I like challenges. I like having stuff that could, like, kind of, you know, as you're gonna see from the rest of this list, there's a lot of things in here that I just kind of push myself with, and I'm like, what can I do next? You know, what could I possibly come up with next? What could be bigger than this and blow more people away, and be infinitely harder just for the challenge? The T-shirt rocket launcher. So coming back to that whole what could possibly come next in the big and stupid, I got this idea that, you know, I was like, I want to build something like a T-shirt cannon, but make it more Halo-centric. And I'm like, well, why not the rocket launcher? And first I had to do a little research to see if you can even make a T-shirt cannon out of PVC, and you can. It's not the greatest, but I still decided to go for it anyway. And yeah, once again, just using PVC as the main structure of the thing, and then getting I think it was a solenoid that ran on 3 9-volt batteries. It's kind of weird, like a weird triggering mechanism, but that's what they recommended. If you're building your own t-shirt cannon, do not try that at home. But yeah, the whole system would work off of just collecting air into one tank, and then the solenoid would shoot it out through the other tank. So the top barrel did not work, but the bottom barrel was the one that shot out the t-shirts. And worked kind of fine at home because I have a big air compressor and you could pump a lot of air into it real fast. But when I took it to conventions, I think I only took it to 2. But I'd be sitting there with a bicycle pump, and I know there's a video of me just sitting there with a bicycle pump, pumping up the rocket launcher. It looks so silly.
I gotta get up a good training regimen before.
They didn't tell you in the game that you had to actually pump up the spanker. Nobody ever mentioned that part.
Well, if I read that little pamphlet.
Unfortunately, the thing weighed probably close to 25 pounds when all said and done, so yeah, it didn't get a lot of love out on the con floor, but just having it around, and had to base it off the CE version because I wasn't going to put a lot of detail work into it after building a literal t-shirt cannon around a rocket launcher just for the fun of it. But yeah, it was pretty fun. I think I still have the main portion of it, but the rocket launcher's gone now. It got, everybody's like, ooh, yeah, and then when they heaved it up on their shoulder, like, this thing's super heavy, like, what the heck, man? I'm like, well, sorry, it's designed to fire t-shirts. The Reach suit. So my fourth suit, I stepped away from Halo 3 and I wanted to get into Halo Reach, which is one of my favorite Halo games of all time. I love the customization in it, and I love the Forge world and everything, and like that's the one that me and my friends all played the most with LAN parties and everything. So I'm like, I really want to make my Reach suit, and I want to do the security helmet, and I want to do all the little bits and pieces that I had on it. I think early on I only had 2 sniper shoulders, but I eventually added the big security shoulder as well. For the most part, it stayed the same. The first iteration of the Reach suit was all foam. At the time, I was still doing pepped helmets. So the helmet was pepped, and the visor, security has that really weird visor. It's like EVA and all the other helmets that just have the weird domed visor. So there's really no good way to do it, and I hadn't even thought about vacuuming forming or getting somebody to do it for me because it's such an odd request. So the first one just has, I think, just like the window tint film, and it looks all right. It looked okay for its time, but it just wasn't all quite there. And then a few years later, after doing a couple other suits in and out, I did like a Doc suit from Red vs. Blue. We'll get into that a little bit later, which then became Church. And then I also did a crossover with Ruby, where I was like Uncle Crow and the Reach suit combined. But then I wanted to eventually come back and redo the Reach suit. So the second iteration of it in 2019 was all foam. Even the helmet was foam. And I managed to pick up like a big bubble visor for the helmet, like a motorcycle visor. And that did okay. It took forever to get the gold tint on that just right. But it worked for what it was, and it was very comfortable, very maneuverable. But I knew eventually I wanted to come back and do it one last time, one proper time. And that's what I ended up doing I believe I started in 2020 and I finished in 2021, was the current suit, this guy right here. And it was white and yellow to start. I've since repainted it white and gold. But is probably my most accurate and loved suit so far. I say so far, even though this might be the last one, just because I love it so much. It's everything I've wanted in a suit. Maneuverability could be a little better, but in terms of accuracy and like just general look, I love it. And I don't know. I don't know if I build another one from here or if this is it. I've had this thing for about 3 years now, and I keep making improvements to it, and that's my baby. I love it. Sheila the Tank. Oh, where to even start with Sheila the Tank? the tank was a project, maybe a bit more than I could chew when I started. I don't know what I was thinking, but the idea came about that, you know, everybody's working on warhogs, and there's all these mongooses, and there's like one or two select ghosts out there and stuff, but there was no love for the tank yet. And I'm like, I could build a tank. Yeah, I mean, I built big stuff before. Why not build a tank, right? So I got my coworker's van on a trade and started demoing and everything, and started getting all the wood gathered and everything. And I think it was only within like 3 or 4 months that we had pretty much the main shell done, and it was looking pretty big. There's this infamous photo that I've just loved showing people of Arma. Arma came over and he was helping me with the tank, and he climbed into it, and I took a picture and like zoomed in. It's like, oh yeah, that looks pretty big, but when you zoom out on the picture, like, you can actually just see the scale of the tank. It was going to be, with the treads on, I think 22 to 24 feet long, 16 feet wide, and 10 feet tall. Huge. And everybody's question was like, you know, all right, after you build it, how are you going to transport it? And I'm like, I haven't gotten to that part yet. Like, I honestly don't know. But ultimately, yeah, the tank didn't work out. I ended up having to like leave it out in the elements, and the money issue got to it and everything, and so just kind of sat and rot there for a couple of years, and I decided just to pull the plug on it. It was one of my earlier, like, I don't really call it a failed project, because I could have kept going had, you know, the circumstances been better. But it was my first like learned lesson project of, you know, you went too big, you went too fast. Slow it down there, bucko, and like, you know, take from this and learn and be like, hey, you know, if you do come back to it, what would you change? And there is a plan. If funds ever come around, or if time ever comes around and I want to go back and do it, there is definitely a plan, and it could be done. Just that wasn't the right time, and I bit off more than I could chew for that one for sure. The Biofoam Canister. So the Biofoam Canister is actually one of those, I don't know how well it's going to work on the green screen, but it's one of those props that I actually still have to this day, since it's such a nifty little thing, and it doesn't take up much space, so I got to keep it around, like some of the bigger props that I made. But yeah, this came about as, I think we were just on the forums the one night, or talking over Skype or something, and everybody was talking about the Biofoam Canister and eating the inside, you know, colonials, and they're eating their weird food, cosplay stuff, and I was like, you know, it'd be funny if you filled one of these with like Ready Whip or something. So, challenge accepted. So it does actually, the whole thing will maneuver up into the position, and then you load your can of stuff in there, close it up. Unfortunately, the spray mechanism wasn't the greatest. I think it just had like a screw wedged in here that you press on this, and it'd press on the top of the thing, and it'd spray out. There's a video of me demonstrating it, and the stuff's like just kind of oozing out into my mouth is a way to describe it. Yeah, it worked okay for what it was, and I still like keeping it around as like a little, like, hey, you know, Biofoam. But yeah, for the most part, just a silly little thing just to build, and I think I only did it in about 2 weeks. Really fast build. And yeah, it just makes for some very funny content. The Cortana Platform. So the Cortana Platform came about, there was one guy out there that actually made one of his own, and I think he used a Raspberry Pi or something, and he had his wife do all the animations and everything for Cortana, and it was pretty neat. I don't know how in-depth it got, in terms of like what could be done with it and everything, but I saw it and I'm like, you know what, I want to build me one of those. So the first iteration of the platform was built out of wood, and then I shoved an entire PC behind it with a monitor and everything. The thing weighed astronomical. I had 15 to 20 pounds. Just trying to haul that thing around, and it was such an odd shape and everything. But it did its job pretty good. You could see it on 3 sides, and I had to go in, and I found this GIF online of Cortana, and I had to, you know, get rid of the background behind her and stuff, and then I went on, and I found all these 3D models that I could just spin around and make them appear on the screen. I think there's probably, I can't remember, 12 to 18 different images that'll pop up on the original one. And then after a while, I'm like, this is big and bulky, I want to redesign it. So I made a smaller platform for the second time around. It operates on just a tablet, so it's way lighter. The whole base is made out of foam and plexiglass, and I think a shoebox or something. And re-uploaded some more images. I think this one has 24, and then I even went as far as to get Cortana on Windows to read out entire paragraphs describing the item or the person that was on there being displayed at the time, and then it would switch back to Cortana standing there every once in a while. And yeah, it was a fun little project. I like doing it. It was pretty challenging, and trying to get like all the images to appear just right and stuff with the backgrounds not being displayed and everything, and make it actually like you can pull away the back slide and see clean through it and actually see that it is a hologram. It's just one of those trick of the eye things, but it's a great little like party thing, or to put it on the table for boosts and everything. It doesn't get out very often because in testing, you know, in convention centers and everything, there's a lot of lights. So, and it doesn't, you know, it's dependent on not having too much light behind it so you can actually see through it. But yeah, every once in a while I'll bring it out and demonstrate it. I still have it. Needs a little bit more work so you can hear Katana just a little bit louder because she is kind of quiet coming off a tablet, but that's future problems. The Ghost. The Ghost is definitely one of the most challenging projects I think I've ever done in terms of like anything Halo related, because it's like, how in the world do you make a rideable vehicle that's that shape and that size and all these things and everything. But the Ghost idea actually came originally from Obi Jeff when we were staying with him up at PAX. He had shown me that he had a electric wheelchair, and he's like, hey, it wouldn't be cool to turn this into like a Ghost or something. I'm like, that would be awesome. And so a few years down the road, I was at an auction, came across a scooter, and it popped into my head, Jeff's idea, and I'm like, all right, let's do this. Let's make one. So I brought it home, and it's this old I had to look it up. It was a 1994 just electric kids scooter, not designed for no 200-pound adult, but I was gonna make it work because that's what I had to work with. Had to replace the battery, fix some tires on it, you know, work the motor and everything. And then, of course, come up with planning on how to build a frame around a scooter so it could ride down the road. But I came up with the idea of taking a board, laying it across, and then having another board come up and be the back support. So you'd actually just sit on the foam itself, and it never looked any different. The front end had a intricacy of PVC going up it, and the wings would be detachable to fit through doorways and stuff because I need to take it into convention centers. The whole Ghost shell is made out of foam and hot glue, which is primarily what I work with. So leaving it out in the sunlight in 80-degree days just wasn't going to be an option, so you'd have to bring it inside the convention centers. So the first iteration of the Ghost was very polygonal. It was built off of just, I think, a random file I found floating across the internet, because nobody really had files of the vehicles at the time. And so that's basically what I had to go off of. I got it to a scale that I liked. I think it was only about 5 feet long and 4 feet wide. And I felt comfortable taking it down, like bike paths and everything. I wasn't going to take it on the road. The thing could only do about 5 to 10 miles an hour. So it wasn't really fast per se, but it worked. It worked for what it was. About the 5th or 6th major ride I took it on is when the battery really started dying. I rode it. There's a place around here called Presque Isle, and it's a 3-mile ride down to one end and 3-mile ride back to the middle, and that's the usual run that I do. And I rode it all the way down to the pit stop, and it died. The battery ended up dying on me, so I had to walk 3 miles back in my armor down a national park, getting stared at by everybody like, hey, well, broke down, I gotta go get the truck. But then eventually, during 2020, and I wanted to upgrade the Ghost, so I was like, all right, what do we need to change first? So I got a new scooter for it. I stole the old Ghost body, got a new scooter. During one of the conventions, we tried driving the old Ghost through a door, and it broke all the internal PVC, so that needed reworked. So I reinforced it and got it all done, and I was like, it's okay. And I wasn't really satisfied with it. I'm like, the new scooter is really cool. It goes much faster. It's got better maneuverability, but something's missing. And then about this time, another Jeff, 2 Jeffs are involved with this Ghost, by the way. Jeff W. Had some files from Reach, and one of them was the Reach Ghost. So I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this proper. Let's rebuild this thing and make it look even better. So that's exactly what I did. I got to work on it. I think I blasted out that entire Ghost body in 3 months. It was bigger. It was 7 feet long, 7 feet wide at this time. Much more detailed. I put a house paint job on it so it survived the elements a lot better and everything. I redesigned the front end so it wouldn't break as bad if anything happened, and of course something did happen last year, so the Ghost needs fixed now again. But yeah, it's always an eye catcher. It's probably, as I put it, it's the thing I'm most known for and not known for, because everybody almost knows about it, but nobody knows it's me. Like, the video's out there, but I never recorded myself. Somebody else recorded me, loosed it into the wild, and so yeah, I'm most famous for something and then not even being noticed for it. It's funny. The forklift. So the forklift, once again, was one of those things where we're just in chat the one night talking about stuff, and I don't remember who it was said it or how it even came about, but somebody's like, it'd be really funny, a little miniature driving forklift. And I'm like, honestly, I think it was Turbo. But I'm like, you know what? That sounds pretty funny. So let's do it. So, got the file for the forklift, the Halo Reach forklift, shrunk it down, and previously I'd built a robotic K9 from Doctor Who that could drive around and like spin in circles and everything. So I was like, yeah, all right, well, simple thing. The RC car's detachable from K9, so we'll just detach it from there, put it right on the forklift, which actually ended up working almost brilliantly. Had to adjust the wheels a little bit, but that was no problem. And then, yeah, so I had this little miniature driving forklift. And the one day I was building it, and I looked at it, and I'm like, I think my head could fit in this. And sure enough, like, I, on accident, but somehow on purpose, decided to fit my head inside of it. And so, thus was born the forklift helmet, as it were. And I think it has more popularity being a helmet, mostly because it drives atrociously as an RC car. Like, it's all in the front, and it just doesn't maneuver very well. So it's more used as a helmet than anything. And then, of course, those photos started leaking out on the internet. And if you're not aware, there is one artist out there who has like an entire like sub-series dedicated to Forklift Man and his wife, like Pelican Girl. it evolved into something for sure. It's funny. I love it. Your art's amazing, by the way. And yeah, it's it's just one of those things that kind of took off, and it's just a meme at this point. For the future of the forklift, though, eventually, and I kind of kept this on the down low, but I'll tell people now because I don't know when it's gonna happen. But so we have the forklift, right? And then there's a driver inside the forklift that goes on top of my head. So I want to make an even smaller forklift to fit on his head, and then put a Lego figurine, and then eventually build a giant forklift that you can actually ride in. It's gonna take some big convention or big Halo event for me to build the forklift, but just know that in the future the meme could go like Inception, and you could have multiple layers of person forklift till it's full size. It sounds ridiculous, but I love it and I want to do it someday. Jeffrey the Mannequin. So about the end of 2022 last year, I was thinking, all right, I want something, since I have the good suit now, I want something that I can display it with. I want a mannequin, but I want, like, not just like the generic PVC mannequin. Like, I want to make something special. I want to make a mannequin that can, like, maneuver and put in different positions and everything like that. And so the idea of the posable mannequin begun. And what we have today is Jeffrey here, my mannequin, with the googly eyes and everything. And I will admit, Jeffrey gets a lot more love at the conventions than I do nowadays. I don't know what it is. No joke, last weekend at FanX, we pulled Jeffrey out of the car, got him onto the cart, was about to wheel him in, and somebody stopped us for a photo of Jeffrey. Like, immediately. It was hilarious. Like, not even 2 steps outside the car, and Jeff's already a star. But yeah, no, I wanted to make Jeffrey. I wanted to have him as a booth display. I wanted him as a home display, and I wanted to have him like hold various weapons and stuff like that. He's still a work in progress. Some of his joints aren't working correctly. He is able to stand on his own. He's able to, like, maneuver his arms and stuff. And there's been some funny photos we've taken the past couple weeks and stuff with him. But yeah, he got his name of Jeffrey because at the time I was watching a lot of like late night stuff, and if you're old like me and you remember, Craig Ferguson had a robotic partner named Jeffrey that was like this robotic skeleton that just like could barely move and everything, and had these big wide eyes and stuff. And I was like, that the name's gonna stick. It's gonna be Jeffrey. Somebody told me, like, you should have named him Ricky. I'm like, you're right. He should have been called Ricky, but no, he's my Jeffrey. And Jeffrey's going to go places, for sure. For sure. The future. So now we've gotten to pretty much the point of, like, what do I do next? Where do we go from here? Jeffrey's the latest and greatest creation, so what comes after this? There are a couple plans in mind. One of them being I want to create a 10-foot like diorama Halo ring to be on display at conventions. I think that'd be really cool. It's like one of those wacky ideas, but hey, if you made it this far into the video, you understand. I just make wacky stuff. You go big or you go home, and I always go big. And yeah, like I said, there's also the idea of doing the forklift, the full-size forklift someday. As far as suits go, I think I'm content with my current suit, but there's always, there's always weapons to build. There's always stuff. I still got to finish the Halo 3 brute shot that we started. That'll eventually get finished. And yeah, I think at this point it's just mostly going to be props from here on out. Props and boot display stuff and stuff like that. I mean, it's been 10 years since I've been in here, so there's still time to make a ton more stuff. Been to different conventions across the country. Atlanta, Boston, Austin, Toronto, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Cleveland, Columbus, like all these different places. I'd love to head out the Midwest and eventually Pacific at some point. And do all these different conventions and stuff. Next year, I think I'm going to take kind of a break, but I'm still gonna be active. I'm still gonna be building stuff. I mean, that's just me. You know, that's just how I do things. I just sit there and I build things. I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. It's been fun for the past 10 years, and I hope it continues to be fun throughout many more years I'm around here. So, yeah, it's gonna be a fun ride. Keep your eyes open for some like outlandish stuff. Who knows? Maybe the tank will come back. Maybe I build a Warhog finally. You just never know. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. And yeah, keep in touch on my pages. Facebook, I'm on Benton's Builds. Instagram, Benton188. That's pretty much the only two things I'm on these days. I'm an old man. I'm scared of social media. Pretty much. So, thanks for watching. Keep in touch, guys. We'll see you.